Hi, my name's Harry Norton. I work for KTM factory off-road team. Just going to explain a few little bits and pieces about how to change your front sprocket. So your TPI KTM will come with a 13-tooth sprocket or a 14-tooth sprocket. The 14-tooth sprocket is the ADR required sprocket for it, and depending on your terrain, if you're riding desert stuff, sand, like faster terrain, then the 14 might be your option. Any like tight bush riding, Lyndon Snodgrass on our 300 last year, he's done a lot of riding on the TPI, he prefers 1350. So I'll run through a few little bits and pieces on how to change them. So these are the tools that you'll need to fit your front sprocket to your KTM. You'll need a 17mm socket, a 27mm spanner, 8mm T-bar, and a 13 and a 10mm spanner to adjust your chain once you've fitted the 13 tooth. The first things first is to undo your countershaft sprocket nut. I put my one foot on the rear brake. I don't like to do it in gear, you can damage the gearbox internally. Next step is to get an 8mm and just move your chain guide out of the way. I like to then grab my 27mm socket, release my rear wheel, just push my axle across so I can slide my chain forward, my rear wheel forward, so then I can get at my front sprocket nice and easy. One thing with the 14-tooth sprocket that you'll pull off of your bike is the pressure plate or the pressure washer inside. Make sure you don't leave that stuck in there, and that goes with your bolt. There's also a big difference between the two. So genuine 14-tooth sprockets come with a rubber backing on them. It's mainly for ADR to do with noise, a little bit of dampening, but there's not a lot of difference between the two, but the noise factor. So we're going to put our 13-tooth on. So we'll come back over to our bike. I like to just prop my foot up behind the wheel. Just makes it a little bit easier to put that, to feed that chain over that. Just like that. So then get your 13 and your 10mm spanners. Release your locking nuts on your chain adjusters. So there's quite a pronounced difference between the 13 and 14-tooth sprocket. So it's equivalent to about 3.7 teeth on the rear. So it's quite a big change. It's going to change the characteristics of your bike quite a bit. It's going to change the way the rear shock works and where the power sits. It's also going to shift your rear axle position quite a long way further back. So just depending on what situations you're riding, what you're doing, whether you're doing desert stuff or bush riding, can have a massive effect on your suspension action also. Quick rule of thumb is 3 fingers just behind the chain block. So it's super important to get the line up of your rear axle, so your rear wheel's dead straight. So there's little lines on your chain adjuster block and there's little notches in the swing arm. So making sure that they're both equal on either side is super important. Once you've got that square, I like to get a rag and just put it in the chain. Just sit the axle blocks up against your adjusters and then nip up your adjuster box. So next things next is getting Loctite. Make sure you put a generous amount of Loctite on your front sprocket bolt. And a little bit on this one. So next step is to do up your countershaft sprocket bolt. Definitely recommend using a torque wrench. The torque setting is 60 Newton meters. So making sure that the concave sits out. You'll sit in its little groove there. And then thread it in with your fingers first. Foot on the rear brake. When fitting your front sprocket, make sure that you have your direction right. So that is correct with the flat side completely flat, facing out, and the step on the inside facing in. So if you put it that way and you do your bolt up, you're never going to be able to get it tight, and your washer will sit in this outer bit here and just spin around. So make sure that the protrusion sits to the back against the engine case. That's all that you need to change your front sprocket on your KTM.